county system. He even called in sick to what he might say was a fairly big job. I think he's a photographer or videographer. Called in sick, couldn't go to work. But you're going to hear this. Mr. Pearce and Mr. Osborn, the only other two individuals who were with this group of five, did not get sick, did not get violently ill, and obviously did not pass away because they're here. So that puts the ingestion of some drug, some illicit controlled substance in the bodies of Ms. Giles, Ms. Cabrales, and Mr. Osborn. So, listen here. The prosecution's theory is that Mr. Pearce, seated in the dark sport coat at the end of the table, gave these women drugs that killed them. But the prosecution's theory is also that Mr. Pearce also gave Mr. Osborn those drugs that nearly killed him. That's what the theory has to be. Has to be. And remember, I don't bring charges. They do. It's their case. I'm just here speaking for Mr. Pearce. So, the evidence will show that they must submit that Mr. Pearce also tried to drug his buddy, Mr. Osborn. For what purpose? None. That's the problem. Here's a solution. The evidence will show. Mr. Osborn obviously had to have given those women, God rest their soul, the contraband that killed. Accidentally, who knows? Intentionally, who knows? I doubt he's going to take the witness stand and tell you, because he's going to maintain his new second version of events that Mr. Pearce gave everybody drugs. And unfortunately, the two young ladies passed away. So, I think I already said this once, that here's where things get interesting. I should have really reserved it for what I'm going to say now. Here goes. You're going to find out, possibly through Lieutenant Yu, that I got onto this case in April of last year, 2024. But Mr. Pearce has been fighting the case with other lawyers before me. Okay? There's nobody seated next to me. I do not have an attorney who I also utilize to represent Mr. Pearce. Mr. Arton, raise your hand, represents Mr. Osborn, co-defendant. Separate cases. I don't argue for Osborn, he doesn't argue for me. I came on the case in April 2024. And you're going to hear from Lieutenant Yu, not from me. I can't tell you anything about the case other than here's what you're going to hear. Lieutenant Yu's probably going to take a stand and say, probably in July of last year, Mr. Ball uncovered some evidence in this case when he's diligently working for and on behalf of Mr. Pearce. Mr. Ball uncovered a wine glass. And let's call it a chain locket. That's what I'm going to call it. Subsequently, it's learned by the prosecution and me.
All right, we'll step aside here, folks, and take a break. When we come back, we'll hear more from David Pearce's attorney. So keep it here on Court TV.
Tonight on Closing Arguments, she was 12 years old when she stabbed her classmate. Now she's seeking release. We have the latest from today's hearing in the Slenderman stabbing case.
Closing Arguments, tonight at 8/7 Central, only on Court TV.
JonBenet is God.
A two-night special report.
Exclusive video of the man who claims to be JonBenet Ramsey's killer.
Fanny Politan investigates. Tonight, 9/8 Central, only on Court TV.
We're nearing the end of opening statements in the Hollywood overdose murder trial in California. Let's go back inside that courtroom.
It's called a Snowgo. S-N-O-G-O. So, Lieutenant Yu, when I call him as a witness, if he doesn't already state it when the prosecution's case in chief, will state that we knew, based upon some of the recordings and evidence and text messages, etc., before Mr. Vaughn got on the case, that there might have existed a wine glass, maybe even another phone that we never found, maybe some this and that. But also, we also heard that there might have been some type of chain locket, which is what I call it. So I find out through Lieutenant Yu's going to testify. I'm not telling you what I did. He's going to testify that we, the prosecution team, and myself all agreed, let's get that evidence in court. Let's find out who has it and bring it to court. So it was learned that a previous private investigator on the case was a previous lawyer, not me. Her name is Christina Duran. She held on to it. Locket, wine glass. She held on to it. The year goes by, maybe a year and a half, maybe 2 years go by, and she still has it. Because lawyers kept getting changed. I think there was 5 lawyers before me. That may come out of evidence. So we brought the locket. She brought the locket and the wine glass to court. Why? To be analyzed. I turned it over when I found out it existed. Nobody knew what was in it. Law enforcement didn't know what was in it, the wine glass and the locket. The prosecutor didn't. The previous private investigator probably didn't know what the heck was in it. But it was analyzed by LAPD for the wine glass came back, nothing. But the locket was different. Excuse me, I should have been ready. With everyone's consent, I'm going to publish to the jury. Okay. The locket, just a photo. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you're going to hear through evidence that this locket is, this device, never mind, I'll continue to call it a locket, is a Snowgo device. You can purchase it online. It costs $120. It's metallic. When you push out, presumably one end, a little cup or a spoon pops out, and that's used to ingest a controlled substance. Your controlled substance of choice, heroin, cocaine, whatever. It's an ingenious device because it has a loop on the top where you put it on the chain. And you literally go out clubbing or restaurants or dinner, movies, whatever, and you've got your controlled substance in there. And then when it's time ready to use, you pop it out, snort, put it back in, twist it, I presume. It's closed. You still got your drugs in there. This was in the possession of Miss Giles. And it's hard for me to say this, ladies and gentlemen, because she passed away. But the evidence is, as the evidence is, this locket, this chain locket, this Snowgo device, was tested by LAPD forensics, and it returned positive for fentanyl. Positive for fentanyl. Now, let's play fair here. Let's play fair here. This device could have simply scooped up fentanyl or snorted fentanyl, not possessed fentanyl. Hope you're hearing me. It could have not stored fentanyl. Forget possess. Inside, it could have had cocaine. Could have been empty. Could have been empty. Could have had fentanyl. Could have had cocaine laced with fentanyl. Could have had heroin, ketamine. It could have had any of these powders in that Snowgo device. But it was tested positive for fentanyl. So now the prosecutor's theory to show that Mr. Pearce administered these drugs to these women who passed is that he now is utilizing fentanyl to date rape these two women who tragically passed. I submit to you, you're going to hear from the evidence, they have their own fentanyl. I submit to you that whatever expert takes a stand, whether it's Lieutenant Yu or the two gentlemen who decided it, who I've never met, I don't know. Let me tell you this, the evidence is going to show that fentanyl's a killer. It's a killer. You can't ask them, but if you could, ask the families of Tom Petty and Prince. It doesn't discriminate. No drug. So where'd the fentanyl come from? Fentanyl was never found in Mr. Pearce's possession. But the allegations are that he uses cocaine and he date rapes women with GHB. Now remember when I said this gets interesting? None of us would have known that had I not sought to turn over the evidence, the locket, the wine glass. We'd be here without it. I'd have no argument regarding these murder issues. Makes sense now. It makes sense now when Ansbach gets violently ill and tragically Miss Giles and Miss Cabrales passed. It makes sense now that they snorted or used that Snowgo device that contained fentanyl. It's that simple. Mr. Pearce did not kill these women. You know what? The evidence will show I can't even tell. I won't even say that Mr. Ansbach did. Because I don't think the evidence will show that. The evidence will show that these young ladies unfortunately ingested fentanyl and they died. But not at the hand of Mr. Osborn or Mr. Pearce. No, not even close. Ansbach was involved. Remember what I said? I can't even tell you that Ansbach was the one who said, here you go, let's try this. Snort this. I can't state that. Because he wouldn't try to hurt himself. He became violently ill. Mr. Pearce didn't want to try to hurt his body.